prepared. So we'll get ready to go. I told everyone 5:15, so we're 3 minutes late. I'm sure Pete, or I'm sure if Jack is watching, he's probably wondering, what are you guys doing?
Well, Yump too, for that matter.
Yeah, Yump is he's like a clock.
Yes.
Clock magnet. Like it's 3 minutes after. I'm getting you. Here we go.
Well, Yump too, for that matter.
Yeah, Yump is he's like a clock.
Yes. Hear that, Yump? We're on to you.
We are on the air. All right. So good. All right. Tweet it out. There we go. Oh man, there's a lot of hashtags in this one too. I like it.
Oh, nice.
That's what happens when you're actually prepared to kind of go on a little bit. Is that boom?
Scary, huh?
See here, quote tweet, and then I can do my "We are live" and
hi, Justin.
Yeah.
If you want to do that, knock your socks off, but you'll go blind if you do that.
And slow before we dig into some stuff. Join the live cast and the comments.
Mm-hmm.
Smash the like button. Do it right now. If you're watching us right now live, you do it right now. You smash.
Yes, that's right.
Smash it like Mario. Do 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 do. All right, and button. And follow. Like the Pied Pipers of goof that we are.
Yep.
Cubs, hashtag White Sox, hashtag large pennants. No, just kidding. And what was the other one? Oh,
Top Gun.
Stranger Things. There we go.
Oh yeah, there you go.
All right, post it. All right, so you ready to rock?
Let's go.
Rundown's ready. Like totally prepared for this, guys. Like totally prepared.
Yeah.
So deal with it. All right, sorry. Oh crap, that's the wrong browser. It's been weird too. I've been working all day. All right, and we are going to start in 5, 4.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
It's time for The Tainted Glove, starring your favorite man of questionable character, Aloha Mr. Hand.
Hey, bud. Let's party.
And the Holy Reverend K-Fids himself. It's go time, so grab a beer, grab a bite, and settle in. It's time for The Tainted Glove.
Aloha. It's your favorite friend with questionable character, Aloha Mr. Hand, coming to you on this June 6th, 2022, with my partner K-Fids. And today I would just like to extend a hearty thank you to all veterans, current and former, since today is the anniversary of the D-Day landing in Normandy. So all you veterans out there, even you, Sal, thank you. And with that, I'll turn it over to my partner, K-Fids. K-Fids, take it away.
Yeah, happy D-Day. I guess it's not really happy, but
right.
One of the most successful moments in American military history. And I know that you've got, I know you mentioned when we got on, you're watching Saving Private Ryan on the TV side. And how can you not, on a day like today's the day to throw in, Private Ryan, Band of Brothers, the Pacific. Oh, I love any of the Spielberg and Tom Hanks produced World War II stuff. The documentary World War II in color is great. You can watch the D-Day invasion in color. A lot of really good stuff. But I hope you guys are having a great day. Thanks for tuning in. We're back after a little bit of a couple weeks off. We had, I know Pete was out of town. He was Memorial Day weekend at the Hall of Fame. And obviously I was Memorial Day weekending myself here. And so we are back. Again, like I said, we go every 2 weeks usually. And as the schedule permits. But welcome back to this week's episode. We got a lot to talk about. We're going to dig into the Cubs and the White Sox, obviously. We're also going to touch on the awesome event that you guys all got to go to this past weekend. We don't want to steal too much of their thunder because it wasn't our event, but talk about the awesome. It was kind of our event, but not our event. It was their event that we were just hanging out with. The Top Gun screening Saturday night. We'll talk about the film itself. We're going to touch on some Stranger Things. I'm not going to touch your Stranger Thing, but
Giggity.
But we will touch on the show, the release, and I definitely want to dig into that for a second. So if you're fans of Stranger Things, stick around. Especially if you're a fan of Top Gun, stick around. If you're Cubs, White Sox, we're going to flip it up. You're going to have to listen to me talk about the Cubs for a few seconds today before you hear Pete go on an epic rant. He's got some things to say. I'm actually super positive right now. So I don't know why. Oh, there's my light. All right, my lighting was a little messed up. I'm super positive right now, but I'm also super positive that Brian can shut his mouth.
I'm with you. Natural all the way.
Nothing's better than the natural Brian. Nothing.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no. A crave case of White Castle, but that's different.
Antique taco is better than the natural.
Ooh, ouch. One of those doesn't cause diarrhea, by the way. So, and it's White Castle. No, just kidding. So we're going to dig into that. So make sure you guys stick around for the duration, though. We got a good show for you, but thanks for tuning in. As we jump right into it, Pete, again, I guess we'll dump into the Cubs real quick first.
Yeah.
So that we can. Again, this is our new season. This is the second episode of season 2.
That's right.
We are
great job on the summary episode while I was out attending that atrocious, ridiculous Cleveland game that just got uglier and uglier as the night went on.
Yeah, that was fun. I drank a lot of coffee, so I actually was a Rockstar on the way home from school. I was like, at school, I usually only drink. I'll bring a can of Rockstar, or I only do that like once a week or twice a week max, because obviously these energy drinks aren't great for you. Or I'll drink an iced coffee, but for me, I don't drink the whole thing. Like I sip it over the course of the day. I'm not someone that I don't know how Carrie does it. Like she'll sip an iced coffee and be down in like 5 minutes. I'd be like Emily Rose spinning around all on the ceiling, like all over the place. So I don't know how they do it, but anyway, yeah, that day I drank a Rockstar on the way home because there was a lot left in the can, and I just figured I'd go with it. So, but anyway, ouch! I think we hurt Swo's feelings, which is fine. It's actually encouraged here in the chat. So, anyway, let's start with the Cubs. The Cubs actually are coming off. The White Sox might have been. We'll get into the White Sox kind of. Treading
the White Sox are like a freaking soap opera.
It is, and so the Cubs have actually pretty.
Yes.
As a Cub fan who last year was probably as torturous a season as I've experienced because of course my connections with Chris Bryant and him being traded and all the trade rumors and all that garbage that went on, and then as bad as they were after the trade deadline, it just it took a lot of the joy, and it was very stressful all the way, especially through the trade deadline. This year has been a little bit different for me as a Cub fan, just because I came in with no matter what crap and lies Jed Hoyer and Tom Ricketts tried to spin off and gaslight with the fans. A bunch of us didn't buy that this was not anything other than a rebuild. So it wasn't a kick to the balls that a lot of these poor Cub fans, it's kind of their fault, but a lot of these Cub fans have felt, what? This is not us. This isn't the team we were promised. No, because it was never put on paper. They didn't try. Okay, they didn't try for Correa. They could have had Correa if they just added 3 more years of the contract. They didn't want to do that, so they just did the optics, the seat at the table, and then they signed Stroman, who's basically trade bait. He's trade bait immediately, and I've heard multiple people that signing was based on the idea that if he kicks butt and it's not happening for the Cubs next year, he's gone at the trade deadline. So that's a good way to tell if the Cubs feel like they're going to go for it or not. Ignoring what Bob Nightingale said today, because Bob Nightingale also said literally the morning that Dallas Keuchel got DFA'd that Dallas Keuchel isn't going anywhere. So if the Cubs are surely going to sign Trey Turner, Bogarts, or Correa in the offseason, I'm pretty sure that just died with Bob Nightingale. So it hasn't been a painful season, though, because we knew what the Cubs were going in. And I'm sure Yumper can attest to it. Him and I have probably, and Aldo on my other podcast with the Tina or with Fingers and Ivy, we've had an even keel approach. You just, unfortunately for Cub fans, there's a large contingent of Cub fans that dive headfirst into the swimming pool because Jed told them to dive into the swimming pool, and they didn't really check to see if the swimming pool had any water. And so unfortunately they got concussed, and they are hurt. And there are a lot of Cub fans that are like so shocked right now that the Cubs are 9-10 games under 500. Not expected. I actually thought they'd be under. I actually can go back to some posts. I said they'd probably be around 10 games under 500 June 1st, and they were. So yay me, I guess. Crap for the Cubs, but we knew this, and so it doesn't hurt. And so really, unfortunately, the part that drives us nuts is the lies that came from the front office. No major market team worth $4.4 billion should be rebuilding and blowing things up. They should only be retooling, but the Cubs literally blew everything up. So this is the second rebuild in a decade for a franchise worth $4.4 billion and the most expensive baseball experience in baseball. So that sucks, but It is what it is. So at least, I mean, it was cool to see the crowd yesterday in the White Sox or the Cubs Cardinals game. It was a large crowd for the Sunday night game because the Cubs still draw. Bad, good, doesn't matter. They draw. It might not be a full house, but they draw and they drew.
But there was a note to me. There was a noticeable drop in attendance, if you will.
You could hear
it was noticeable.
You could hear the Cardinals a little bit more.
What's that?
You could actually hear the Cardinal fans more. Especially
right.
last night than usual, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So
it just seems like it's hard. My personal opinion as an outsider, I think the Cub fans you speak of who bought the hook, line, and sinker of everything are now coming to the realization this team is not good. Why are we going to pay the top dollar in baseball to see a rebuilding team? Because you're right. That's what it is. You got rid of Bryant. You got rid of Rizzo. You got rid of Baez. Contreras is
Darvish.
I don't understand why Contreras is still there. To be completely honest with you, because if he gets hurt, that might set them back a year or two.
Mm-hmm.
If he gets hurt.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're really, really risking it. Every day he's there, they're risking it. They're taking on additional risk.
And I can't imagine he's been killing it. He's probably got the best offensive numbers of any catcher in baseball right now. He's at peak value. And I hate to say this, because unless the Cubs do actually have intent to sign him, and this is, again, there are two things that you can look at the Cubs and know, do the Cubs mean business in 2023? Did they lock up Willie, first off? And do they trade Marcus Stroman? If they trade Marcus Stroman or Wilson Contreras or both, they are tapping out of 2023. That's my opinion. But that's the biggest thing you want to look at in all of this is that, with Wilson Contreras, the Cubs are notorious for hanging on just a little bit too long. And we look at Kyle Schwarber. Kyle Schwarber, after the 2019 season, he had a fantastic second half. His max value was off the charts that offseason. I firmly believe that if Theo, Jed, or whoever was making the major decisions at that point, if they tried to package Schwarber with a Hayward deal and Hayward didn't kibosh it like a dick, they could have been able to take on some of Hayward's salary and trade both those guys together in a package deal. The Cubs held on to him. He got cold after he dropped his value, and then they DFA'd him. And now look at him again. He gets, what did he sign this offseason? A really solid contract, and he's valuable again for the Phillies. And I think the Phillies are going to start a resurgence here real fast with Girardi being out the door. We'll talk about that later. But you get rid of Girardi, things get better in the clubhouse. I'll tell you that. I can tell you that from comments from other players that played in the Yankees locker room under him. He is horrible. He's a dick, and nobody likes him. So,
well, I want to get into that because, yes. So,
anyway, so this is, the Cub fan, Wilson Contreras is playing well. But unfortunately, it seems like the Cubs are going to maybe wait until you don't want to wait until, this is the time to strike if you're going to trade, because he's going to hit a cold spell sometime in mid-June, late June, early July. You don't want to waste it, but you also want to make sure you're getting the best deal possible for it, because he could very well sign in the offseason. But that's always like what they like to tell fans to think, but they usually never come back.
Well, isn't that what they told fans about Bryant and Rizzo? That we're going to engage
Baez
in the offseason? And Baez, too.
Not a phone call. Not a single phone call. None of the three got a phone call. None. Zero.
And Rizzo was very public about that, too. He shared his feelings about that because I believe I heard the term lie come out of Rizzo's mouth.
Yep. He actually called Jed what I've called Jed a liar. I don't know how many KB's called Jed a liar. Jed lies for his boss. And so I don't give a shit who you are. If you lie for your boss, that makes you a liar. It doesn't mean I can it's like saying, well, my boss told me, I'm a mafia member. My boss told me to kill that guy. It's not my fault I killed that guy. My boss.
I was following orders.
Right? No, shut up, Jed. This is you. You're a liar. Okay. So, that's where the Cubs are at. But, but the fact that we're seeing this Cubs team at this point, they're 9-10 games under 500. I think they're, oh gosh, I just hit the wrong button. But I think they are, I want to say 9. 9 games under 500. They are 9.5 games out of first place. They're, I think, 6.5 games already out of the wild card, which is not that hard to get in the National League in the first place. So, in a weird way, it could be better for the Cubs if they had played 5. I thought they were going to play 500 baseball this year. This isn't super surprising. at this point, though, because that June and late May was they had a couple really rough stretches. They're in the middle of a really brutal one, and they've actually fared. I think they're a game under 500 in this little stretch. I think because there was 9 games since the White Sox. Oh no, with the White Sox series, they've split.
They're 4-6 in the last 10.
Yeah, so they split with the White Sox. They split 4 games with the Brewers, and they lost 2. They won 2 of 5 against the Cardinals, I believe.
Yeah, they lost 3. Yeah, because it was a 5-game series because they had the doubleheader Saturday to make up for.
So 5,
earlier.
6. So like 6 and or they're 5 and 6, I believe, in that stretch. I think I want to say. Actually, not horrible. Better than I expected, to be honest. I didn't expect him. I expected him to get either swept or get at least beat around a little bit by the Brewers, but the Brewers are inconsistent. The Cardinals are showing to be inconsistent. And so it's a nice little stretch for the Cubs. So I actually am in a positive place right now because mediocrity is actually not too bad. You got the big man Frank Schwindel is starting to heat up a little bit, which is cool because he's a fun guy, not a guy you build around, but the Cubs tried to sell fans on that. Patrick Wisdom is doing what Patrick Wisdom does, which is 2 really great games and then 5 disappearing act games. I mean, he went, people are talking, oh my God, he had a double last night. Yeah, that was his 3rd hit in 22 at bats. I can't imagine if I failed 3 or, if I failed 19 out of 22 times and someone was like, dude, you're doing a hell of a job, because the 3 successes happen to be exciting, a home run and 2 doubles. I mean, but that's Wisdom for you. So Wisdom's doing what Wisdom does. And again, the guy's been fine. You throw him in the 7 or 8 hole, and he could be trade bait, but his contract is too inexpensive, and it's like extended through 2027. It'd be stupid.
It would be foolish to trade him because, yes, while the contract is inexpensive, how old is he? 28, 29?
30.
Somewhere around there?
30.
30?
Yep, he's a 29-year-old.
What are you going to get for him? Honestly, what would you get for him?
I mean, he's hit 40 home runs in his last 162 games.
How many strikeouts?
Oh, see, that would be a major league record if they were to actually be a regular season. So he's done both. So that's what he does, though. You know what he is. He's a guy you throw in the 7 or 8 hole where he's a strikeout or a instant offense. I'll take that.
Home run or nothing, like the old home run derby.
But we were told that he was a core guy to build around. And that's not a guy you build around. That's inconsistent. You want a guy that's going to be there every day. And you know who's been there every day? Christopher Morel, Cubs rookie, who they brought up straight from AA. They skipped AAA, which is where old ball players go to die and where rehabbers go to rehab. And so they skipped AAA. They sent him right up. Since he's been called up, the Cubs, who have lacked a leadoff hitter, really, I mean, you could kind of say the Cubs had a pretty decent leadoff hitter when you're talking about Ben Zobrist. But really, since Dexter Fowler, it's been a while since the Cubs had anybody just doing the job. And Christopher Morel, the rookie, 22, 23-year-old, 20 games he's played so far since his call-up. He has reached base in every single game. He has a 20-game streak of reaching base since the first day. It's the longest streak to start a career in Cubs history, and he's approaching the major league record. Awesome. The kid is exciting. He plays the game right, though. He's a very good base runner. He's headsy. He's not too much emotion over like logical, calm performance. He's more like people say, oh, he's like Javi. No, he's not like Javi. He's more disciplined already at this point as a 22, 23-year-old than Javi ever will be. He actually takes pitches. He takes walks. He goes up there with an approach. He, someone who maybe he's the next Wilson Contreras. No, Wilson Contreras is not him either. Christopher Morel reminds me of Christopher Morel. He does himself. He gets on base. He hits gaps, hits balls hard. He'll walk into a homer. He's been really exciting to play, and he does. He plays with exciting passion now. Cub fans love this. This is the gladiator mentality of Cub fans. They want to see
the try hard guy, the hustle guy.
Guy that goes and shows and does all the cheerleading stuff and dances around like a fucking clown. They love. And I'm not saying Morel's a clown, but fans like the performance art just as much. The performance art actually masks bad performance for Cub fans. If you show, look at this guy's passion. I love this guy. I know he's 2 for his last 47, but man, he was so exciting. He was
the fire and the passion.
And it's just, dude, I'll take a quiet mime if that dude hits 350. All right, so it is what it is. But some guys use that, and eventually that's going to wear down. Oh, you can always be that young guy, but you can only be that young, passionate, exciting guy before 162 games wears you out after 3 or 4 seasons. It's fine, but he is coming out like gangbusters, so it's really exciting. Caleb Killian, the Cubs called up. The guy that they got in the KB trade, very good, very refined. He's 25. He's older. But he's been very good at the lower levels, and they brought him up, and he threw all right. He had 1 bad inning. against the Cardinals. But I mean, the dude struck out the side in his first inning of work. That's awesome. So there's some positives on there, but Morel's been just an absolute joy to watch. And him hitting one in the leadoff spot, and Wilson Contreras in the 2 spot has been pretty productive, because Wilson right now is as hot as any catcher in the game, and he's killing it. And the thing for me is David Ross. Here's my problem. You got 1-2. You got Morel owning that leadoff spot. He's not going to get sent down anytime soon, I hope. Fans would revolt. You got Wilson swinging it really well. And then Seiya Suzuki's out. So it really is now, what do you do after the 2 spot? And, Rossi keeps pretty much rolling out the same lineup. And let me see if I can pull this up. I can actually pull it up on my phone, actually. Make sure much faster, because it was actually already
Here, I can pull it up. So I'll pull up last night's lineup.
Well, last night I believe he had who was in the 2? That's what I want to check. You had and Ian Happ in the 3.
Yep.
That's fine. And then you've got Schwindel, who's hitting 240,
yep.
And then you got Wisdom at 220, 226.
Ortega.
Wisdom showed up last night, so he got his 2 hits. He'll disappear for a week.
Ortega 269.
You got Nico Horner going out there. Nico Horner is since he came back from the DL, he's had 2 different doubleheaders that he's played in. The first game of the doubleheader, where he collected 3 hits or more, and didn't play in the second game of the doubleheader. Rossi won't write him. So it's a very
There's a theme here.
I don't get it. And I'm okay with the Morel Contreras thing, and I know that he likes to go the righty thing. Well, why not put Nico Horner in the 3 spot? I know it sounds really crazy. Why not put Nico in the 3 spot or Wilson in the 2 spot? Let Nico hop up there, take that. I like Nico in the 2, Contreras in the 3, Happ in the 4. Then you can let Wisdom and Schwindel, whatever the hell they're doing, in the 5-6. Ortega command the 7th. And then you got, last night they played Hayward, but you've got that right field spot, whoever you're going to throw out there while Say is out. And then you got Nick Magical. And Nick Magical, look, Sox fans, I'm sorry. I know you guys, it's so insane that a player can create such polarity and such vitriol. But since he's returned from the DL, Nick Magical is 6 for 20. He's reached base 7 out of 21 plate appearances. He's actually been fine, a 300 hitter.
Can I say one thing about Nick Madrigal, though?
Huh?
It is not entirely Nick Madrigal's fault. A lot of it has to do with here's another theme. A lot of it has to do with the way White Sox management presented Nick Madrigal as a high IQ, high contact, Gold Glove caliber second baseman. And I will be honest, I did not see any of those things in his time with the White Sox. I did not see him. Now, I think, does he have the potential to be there? Maybe, maybe not. I didn't see it when he was with the White Sox. No. I think there was some he dislocated his shoulder by being an idiot running the bases. Didn't know how to slide. That's why he dislocated his shoulder. Defensively, he left stuff to be desired for me. And at bat, he was very hot and cold. When he was connecting and hitting, he was hitting. Yes, he made me eat. I had to eat a fucking salad because of him hitting a home run. Goddammit. I'll never forgive him for that.
See one of his homer.
Yes. So did Carey.
Great. Still to this day. Fantastic.
But I think with Madrigal, it is not Madrigal the person. It is not his fault.
Yeah.
It is the way he was presented.
And that's a really valid argument. Fans had expectations. Again, this is what happens. Rick Hahn, creates expectations by saying that the White Sox are going to be, the parade comment or whatever.
Yep.
With Madrigal, look, all the scouts all graded Nick Madrigal. It's not like the White Sox were the only ones that got it wrong. Basically, every franchise in baseball got it wrong. If the White Sox didn't take Nick Madrigal, was it 3rd?
Yes.
If they didn't take him 3rd?
No, it was 4th. He was 4th, I think.
Guess what?
Because Vaughn was 3rd.
He was going to go 5th. He would have gone 5th if he didn't go 4th. He was universally out of Cal. Or is it Cal?
No, Oregon.
Oregon.
Was it Oregon State?
Oregon State. I think it was Oregon State.
So it was OSU because he was teammates with Adley Rushman.
Right. That's right. Yeah, it's Oregon. Yeah, because that was when Oregon's. See here.
They won the national title his senior year.
Yeah, Oregon State. Yeah, and Oregon State was a juggernaut at the time. They were
and Rushman was a junior, and Madrigal was a senior.
Mm-hmm. And so Madrigal had that reputation. He was. It's not like Rick Hahn fucked up.
Right.
Everybody then, if Madrigal isn't the dude, and look, when you draft a guy, this is another thing. White Sox fans and anybody really with draft. I don't know why my lighting seems weird. There we go. With the draft, if you draft a guy in the first round, it doesn't mean he's going to be a superstar. If you could draft a guy in the first round and he becomes an average major league hitter and player, you succeeded with your first round pick. It's that complicated, and there's that much like in between stuff. It's just hard. And so,
there's a very simple thing that people need to understand. The 1-1 draft pick. There are only 3 1-1 draft picks in the Baseball Hall of Fame. There's only 3. Ken Griffey Jr., Chipper Jones, and the third one got in through the Veterans Committee, and that was Harold Baines. Those are the only 3 1-1 draft picks.
So it's hard. And so your job in that first round or in any draft is to draft a dude that can contribute with your major league team as a consistent, at least average major leaguer. Madrigal, I mean, he hasn't been average lately because he's striking out a little bit more than he normally does. And that was one of his strong suits. But, he's figuring it out. I feel like he's figuring it out. Now, look, I can go through, let's talk about Nick Madrigal's defense. Now, it might not be grading out well, but this year defensively, let's see here where we got. He has, guess how many errors he has so far this season let's see here, how many chances? 127 chances. How many errors do you think Nick Madrigal has? This guy that's
2.
Defense, 0. He hasn't made an error yet. In 2022, he's errorless. Knock on wood, obviously.
Yes.
So defensively, here's people getting mad now, though. Yesterday, a chopper up the middle by Goldschmidt. Nobody's getting this baseball. You're not going to, he chopped it up into the stratosphere. Okay. It's an infield hit, but Madrigal comes up and he tries to do the do or die and he kind of clanks the do or die. Even if he does the do or die, he's not going to get Goldschmidt. People are fucking Madrigal. And Sox fans too, Madrigal sucks. Holy shit. That was an infield hit that he was just giving it a fuck it, why not, kind of thing. It's house money. He's probably going to be safe anyway, but it's a do or die. So that's the chance to do whatever, maybe if he went barehand, they would have let him off. But they jump on him, and it's weird to me. His defense has been fine. His base running has been fine with the Cubs. He hasn't done anything bonerific with the Cubs other than striking out. So he's maybe closer now to becoming the player that he was envisioned. But I'm not, again, I guess the expectation stuff really makes it hard. It's the same thing when you compare. So he's the next so-and-so. This player's the next Mike. This player's the next, I
remember Joe Borchert of the White Sox being the next Mickey Mantle.
It's unfair to prospects, first off.
Yes.
And it's,
but again, they always try and build it up. And part of it is, it's the old Atlanta Braves trick. Now, with the Atlanta Braves, you never, ever heard them talk about Smoltz or Glavine when they were coming up as, this guy's the next Sandy Koufax or Warren Spahn or Jack Morris or whoever it may be. But for other guys, like the Ryan Kleskos of the world, this guy's great. He's going to be awesome. Yeah, they were building him up to trade him.
Yep.
And that's what you have to pay attention to with a lot of teams. The smart teams build up players that they know they don't have a need for.
Exactly.
To try and increase their trade value. And then you get organizations like the White Sox who generally bite on crap like that.
Well, and that's the thing that you've got to deal with. Again, when you're dealing with players like this, it's just the expectations. The old Joe Madden thing. Don't let the pressure outweigh the pleasure. You can't. Expectations ruin everything. Because again, there's no end game except disappointment when you create expectation, and it's an unfortunate byproduct. It's part of what we have to do. In this. Comps. The idea of comps. Comps always make me laugh. Who's his comp? I think Chris Bryant's comp was Troy Glass. But then you have, I think one of my guys, Colby Shreve, Roy Oswalt was his comp. That's unfair to Colby. Colby threw 98, and then he's a doctor now. He's not even playing baseball. He left the game. So, it's just expectations create like this unnecessary, unfair expectation for fans when the player's coming up, and it's unfortunately, what we do and media does too. We're like, oh, this guy reminds me of blankety blank.
Mm-hmm.
He's not that person though. Like, there's only one of those, so you've got to accept that. And Madrigal is 100% a Nick Madrigal. Like, there is no other player in the game that does what Nick Madrigal should theoretically do. So it is what it is. It's just nice to see. I feel personally like he is starting to kind of break out a little bit. And so, where I believe that his breakout makes decision-making a little easier for the Cubs front office, but we are approaching June. We're June 6th today. So trade deadline is, a little bit more than a month away now. And so, for the Cubs, some of these guys that are performing well, as Wilson Contreras, even Marcus Stroman, you got guys that are trade bait now for the Cubs. I think Efros might be another one. I don't think the Cubs are going to do anything with Thompson and Justin Steele, two other guys.
What about Hendricks?
Kyle Hendricks, I think, is 100% on the block. But the problem is Kyle Hendricks has been poo-poo this year. So he has zero trade value right now. It's almost like he lost his ability to locate. And he's not. He's missing a lot of spots, a lot more. Feels like he's falling behind a little bit more this year. So I don't know. I mean, but he's that Cubs ace. So again, there's the Cubs going into 2022 writing sentimentality as opposed to actual logical prep. And so this is where the Cubs are at. They should be in a sell mode. After last year, if they don't, that I don't even know what to think. But how they trade will tell us everything about their intent for 2023. And so you look at guys, the Cubs, if you go across the Cubs roster, I mean, there are players that they're not going to let go because they're cheap. And you can pay those guys and be cheap as hell like they are. I mean, when Jason Hayward is basically 1/4 of your salary total for this, they're $150 million, I think, in payroll, and Jason Hayward's $25 million of that. So can't have that. But I think that if I go through the Cubs list, I think Scott Efros, a really cool sidearms closer, will really help somebody. That can get somebody for him. Kyle Hendricks, I think they can get somebody. Robertson, I think, has been pitching well for the Cubs, another reliever. He could possibly bring some money or bring something else. But I don't think much else. I mean, Contreras, there you go. And you got PJ Higgins, who's actually hitting it decently for the Cubs. So there you go. You got somebody that can fill in there. No chance on Nico. No trade on Nick. No trade on Chris Morel. Rivas, doubtful. Schwindel, again, doubtful. Simmons, maybe, but he sucks. So there's no need unless someone wants a defensive replacement and they can send you like a bag of sunflower seeds. Patrick Wisdom, again, he's too inexpensive. Clint Frazier just hasn't performed, so he's not really tradable. Jason Hayward will deny every trade because he's a dick in that way. He won't do anything to help the team that's been paying him to suck for 3 years now. He literally has been stealing from the Cubs for 3 years. And then
he earned every dollar with that speech.
Ortega might have some trade value as well. Right? Yeah, the speech that really wasn't a speech. So it is, the Cubs' poor performance in a lot of ways has hurt their ability to make some trades because they're not trading prospects; they're getting prospects. And I guess that leads us to the last point before we dip over to the White Sox and the fact that the Cub fans have really banked their happiness on another crop of prospects. And I have to just anybody that's a Cub fan or even White Sox fans out there, with the rebuild too, you guys know this as well. It doesn't always it's almost theoretically impossible for it to happen like it did for the Cubs in 2015, 2014 with Rizzo, KB, Baez, Schwarber, Wilson, Contreras, all those prospects all hitting at once. It doesn't. That's not normal. So Cub fans assume that all these prospects the Cubs have are going to be the same way, and it's not that easy. Brendan Davis, the Cubs' #1 prospect, the guy that when the season ended in 2021 was the closest non-major league player to be ready to the show, is out for the season now because he had back surgery. He started crappy. He didn't get it done at AAA, which was a little shocking to me. And now he's out for the remainder of the season, from what I understand, with back surgery. He's out. That's a whole nother year now. It's a whole nother year. So take 2024 before that kid is ready for the show now. At least midway 2023 at the earliest, because he's shut down until the beginning of the season next year. So he's going to have a whole year of getting right back into it. And that sucks for him. Ed Howard, again, hip injury. There's somebody else. I can't remember who else it was that also was hurt. Miguel Amaya, the Cubs' #1 pick catching prospect, shoulder issues. These guys were sure things just 3 years ago. And nowhere. Killian came up. Who's to know how many bullets Killian has in the gun? You don't rely on prospects as your You rely on the major league quality. If a prospect hasn't performed, they're just a prospect. They're a prospect until they no longer are a prospect.
Prospects are suspects.
Yep, exactly. And so the Cub fans have just kind of like banked it on this, and there are some great ones. I think Owen Casey is a guy to keep your eye on. He's a little ginger from Canada. He's like one of the highest, I think he's the highest drafted Canadian player ever. He's great. He's got a really nice swing. He's got a good arm in the outfield. He's a good left-handed bat. You've got some players that are kind of coming up that are exciting to watch, but they're at single A.
How's Crow Armstrong doing? How's Crow Armstrong doing?
Now, he is my favorite position player in the Cubs organization right now, period. I think, again, he's still so small. He's still so not filled out. He's a little guy. So, he's only at what? Is he a double A or single A? I can't remember. I think he's a double A. I think, so he is doing, I mean, if I don't, well, God dang it. Hold on. Let me double check. I know that, Yumpson, because he was a first round pick, 19th pick overall. He's at high A. So again, he's raking at high A, but guys, that's high A. Okay, if you think that that's the same as Major League Baseball, you are high A. All right, so that's not how this works. Yes, Swo, you're correct. The only thing in life, I would say Jack in the Box.
Yes, I'm with Jack in the Box.
Sure. There are things in this life that are sureties. Prospects are not one of them. But Pete Crow Armstrong probably is the one that I think is going to pan out the best. I mean, at high A, he's hitting 341. He's got 8 homers, 30 RBI, 13 stolen bases, in 180 at bats. He's scored 43 runs. I mean, his OPS is 981. He's killing it. But he's going to go to Double A. And so once he gets to Myrtle, or is it Myrtle or South Bend? I can't remember. I always forget the Cubs.
Number saying he's at South Bend.
Yeah, he's at South Bend. He's at high A right now. Yeah. So when he goes to Double A, that's a whole nother year probably of him getting ready. But what I think is that once you hit Double A, if you can hit a Double A, you can hit at the major league level. So Triple A is almost like a pain in the ass for me. I really don't put much weight in it. Like I said, those are mostly for veterans holding onto the water wagon, trying to stick around and rehabbing players. That's basically it. You generally aren't going to get, you almost can lose a little bit because you're not facing the best competition, which you do see at Double A. Double A gives you the best competition available. It might be not the most refined, but you're seeing 98-mile-an-hour stuff. At Triple A, you might not see someone throwing 96. They might not be able to break a window pane with a fastball. So there's much more talent at the Double A level. So if Crow Armstrong gets up there, and he might be up there sooner than later. Those numbers are off the charts. 8 homers, 30 jacks, 13 stolen bases, 341 average, 981 OPS. That's insane. So he'll probably get that shot, but can you book it? No, nothing's booked. Guess what? He has injury issues. The Cubs got him because they traded Javi because he was already hurt at the time, rehabbing an injury. So they got him at a lower value. He's a fantastic, if he pans out and he stays healthy, he could be fantastic. But I'm not banking on a prospect. I don't. Because anything can happen. They could get tired of baseball and go into insurance sales for all the fuck we know. So that's another whole part of it. It's about that hunger and about that adjustment. And some guys can't handle life on the road. And these guys with all the talent in the world to be pro baseball players and major leaguers can't hack the mental aspect of being on the road that long. Being away that long.
Yeah. And there's some that just can't hack not being the best. They were the best player in their high school. They were the best player on their travel team. And they can't hack the fact that the competition is on par and or better than them.
Yep. They never learned how to fail. They never learned how to fail. Players that didn't learn how to fail at the younger levels will always struggle as a professional. You have to learn how to fail. And you have to learn how to fail the right way. Some guys, we talk about making mountains out of molehills. But this phrase never, ever will get old and will never go out of style. Never too high. Never too low. Even keel. And some of these guys that go and have gotten along on balls and brawn get hit in the mouth a few times, and all of a sudden their confidence is shot. We've talked about the fighter pilot mentality. A fighter pilot that questions themselves. Get a little segue to Top Gun later. Fighter pilots that question themselves end up washing out, like Merlin or whatever his name was. Or not Merlin. Was it Merlin? Who is it in Top Gun at the beginning that washes out? Cougar washes out, right? Yeah, that's right. Cougar washes out, man. And if a player loses that confidence, they wash out too. And I've seen it, man. Drew Robinson, and I love him to death, and his struggles with mental, health and his failed attempt at suicide has been a fantastic, inspirational story. I've known Drew since he was 14 years old, man. And it was actually really hard to watch the documentary on that ESPN documentary where he actually shows the 911 call and it shows like the footage of his house. I mean, I was literally his cell phone sitting on the table, and literally 2 days before he did that, I was using that cell phone to film him hitting at our baseball practice because he was getting some off-season work in before he left. And the mental stress that he went through, not being the dude, really, really mentally, emotionally effed him up. I mean, it really did. And that's not just him. That's across the board. Drew Robinson.
Josh Hamilton. Look at Josh Hamilton.
Mm-hmm. Oh, God, yeah. Hamilton's a great example. The pressure and the lifestyle and the money, all that stuff can become the perfect storm. So, I mean, just to banking on prospects, I just won't do it. It gives you fun optimism, but that doesn't help the major league team right now. And that's where the Cubs are at right now. Those guys are 3 years away. 2024, 25, maybe. The Cubs are going to be loaded if these guys pan out. But there's no guarantees in life, wish in one hand and shit in the other and see which one fills up first, and you'll see. So, that's where the Cubs are at though. So it's not upsetting. The only thing that bothers us, and I think a lot of us Cub fans that are a little bit more grounded, is, two things, or probably three things is really, number one, Jed and ownership lying to us, liars. I'll never trust this group again. So whatever comes out of their mouth, I think is bullshit and just placation. Secondly, I'm so tired of hearing Patrick Wisdom is back. At least 7 different times this year now, Patrick Wisdom is back. Let's get used to this, guys. He's not back. This is just what he does. 2 on, 5 off, or 4 off maybe. So, and that's when he's really running hot. We remember the really great games and we forget about the goose eggs for weeks. And then of course you've got the people that still refuse to call it a rebuild. You got the meatball fans too. And I know that Yumper and I have been debating with this one kid. I mean, he's a kid. He probably wasn't even alive for Kevin Ory, forgotten.
Oh God.
And it's frustrating to talk to some of those types of fans because they still refuse to call it a rebuild. Oh, look at these prospects, and you got these traders for tobacco. Jed did all this. Look at all this stuff Jed did. The Cubs are now on pace for their second sub 500 season in a row, worth $4.4 billion. If you want to go in and suck the teat of Jed Hoyer and Tom Ricketts, that's your call, your prerogative. Okay. You're what we would call a beta. Okay. Or a meatball or a prole, if you guys have ever read 1984. But that's it. Those of us that are actually using logic and using our freaking heads understand that this is not okay. And this is not acceptable for a franchise that is worth this much money, that has promised this much success. And, here it is. So that's where I'm at. That's, I think, where the Cubs are at. They're in the midst of this streak now. I think they head to their next few games. I believe they're
Arizona, or
I think there's
they go to New York and Boston, don't they? Or no, Baltimore. They go to Baltimore.
Yeah, Baltimore 2 days. They got 2 days at Baltimore, then the Yankees, then Padres, Braves, and then a little bit of Pirates, but give them trouble, and then Cardinals, and then Reds. So,
but remember, the Pirates are ahead of them in the standings.
I know, but the saving grace for the Cubs has been the Reds and the Pirates. Being able to play the Reds and the Pirates so frequently early in the season. My God, I mean, the Reds are so bad. They are a college baseball team, right? I'm not sure they would beat Tennessee. I'm not entirely sure they would beat Tennessee, who is exciting to watch. By the way, side note, pay attention to my guy Chris Cortez, pitches for A&M through a couple innings last night in A&M's big time regional win over, I believe it was TCU, moving them on to the Super Regional. So my team for this whole College World Series playoff is obviously Texas A&M. Freshman, throws 99, one of our guys. He's the guy that we expected to be drafted before Tanner McDougal, who the White Sox took in the 5th round.
Yes.
Tanner, by the way, has said that he'd love to come on the podcast. So we'll,
how's he doing after his TJ?
Good. He's doing his flat rounds. He's doing his rehab work. He is, I mean, you really call him day to day at this point. He's going to probably start ramping up and throw some live here really soon. And he's excited. He's pumped, and he's just such a great kid, man. Cortez is as well. Mm-hmm. It's weird how, apple trees produce apples, walnut trees produce walnuts. These are good kids from good families that came from good programs that add accountability. They're always going to be headstrong and tough and mentally focused. Mm-hmm. They learn the game. They understand the game. I mean, our program, ideals have always been, if you can't become a great major leaguer, you might as well become the greatest little league coach ever. And so we focus on that with the kids. We explain what we can. So these kids really, they are solid upstairs. So that's why Tanner, again, he's going to bounce back, and you guys are going to, White Sox fans will be loving him here in about a year or two when he starts really, he's going to move fast once he gets going. I can almost guarantee.
I don't want Tanner on the broadcast. I want his dad on.
Oh, you
on
want
the podcast.
jokes? Dukes tell some stories with his time as a minor leaguer in the in the 80s, early 90s. I mean, that dude was a pitcher, and then after he was done pitching, he played first base as a minor leaguer. That's how good his dad was. Tanner wasn't that great a hitter, and he was solid defensively. He just wasn't real fast, but he was a fantastic left fielder, and we put him out there because he could conserve his arm on stats. We put him at first base because he was also really tall, 6'5", 6'6". But that was kind of funny. I think, who did I get into an argument with? Oh, Bleacher Report, I think, or whatever, one of the Cubs sites, talking about how many great arms in left field. I'm like, fucker, there are 4 Vegas players that are playing left field in the majors right now. So yeah. And that doesn't include pitchers that played left field in high school, like Tanner McDougal, who throws 97, or Chris Cortez, who throws 99, that was playing center field just because he was faster than Tanner. We put him out there. So so the Cubs are moving. And we'll see.
Yeah. And just for White Sox fans, just to make clear, Tanner McDougal's father is named Mike McDougal. It is not the Mike McDougal who was the reliever for the White Sox in like the early 2010s. There is a noticeable size difference between the two gentlemen. Let me just say that.
Mike's a 4X. Like, Mike's a big dude. So Tanner's going to be a big dude. He's the guy. Yeah. Tanner's going to be big like his dad. And if he's big like his dad, Tanner's going to be that guy that doses somebody and that stares him down. And that dude is going to walk to first with a tiny little pinky dick because he's going to be like, nope, no thank you.
Is Tanner going to do a Kyle Farnsworth?
Dude, Tanner's going to be big. Like, he's not going to be, I'm not talking swole. I'm talking like a hoss. And he's going to be, which is great for his health because those dudes really do have a long life. But he's also a great kid, and he's funny, and he's actually a sweet kid, but he's a dog on the bump. You know, That's what I love about these guys like Cortez, guys like Tanner, KB, even Shreve. You get these guys on the ball field, they are such good human beings off the field. But once they toe the rubber or they dig in the box, they're dogs. They're dogs. They're going to go through you. And I love that. And that's the idea of being able to turn it on and turn it off. When you step foot on the dirt, once you cross that gate, you walk out of that dugout, you have business to work on. All dicking around, you can dick around time and a place, and you can be a goofball off the field. But once you get out there, you got work to do. And these guys all have that mentality. It's great. So it's exciting to watch them. And I love seeing, some of our younger guys. So I hope Chris does really well. I hope he makes, I really want to see Chris pitch in the College World Series because his name will just, I said it on the Pinwheels and I last week. I think Chris will be Chris Cortez, Texas A&M, will be a first-round draft pick in 2024.
I was going to say, yeah, he's got 2 years to go, right? Because it's after junior year.
Correct. And so Nate Yeske, their pitching coach or their assistant head coach, is fantastic. Jay Johnson, who was actually at Arizona, and Yeske was at Oregon State. Speaking of, he was the pitching coach at Oregon State when they were legitimately freakish, magical. Those guys are now at Texas A&M. So he followed them to A&M from Arizona because Chris originally was committed to Arizona. And then when Johnson took the job and hired Yeske, Chris went over to A&M as well, joined him. So kind of fun little journey for him. And he's just a great kid. So keep an eye on that. That's my pick, though. If you guys like college baseball, watch Texas A&M. If Chris Cortez gets up there, that kid is only a freshman and he's an 18-year-old. He's probably 19 now. As long as he stays off the four-wheelers. His dad loves four-wheelers on the desert. And I'm always dude, you're going to crash. He's going to have a successful career. So with that said, as a little segue, the positivity, you heard me, I was being positive, guys. Positive. I was being real nice, positive. There's the next, big thing, which is for the White Sox. And I know you've had some feelings, you've had thoughts, and you've been kind of saving them. And so the White Sox are sitting at what's the record now?
They are 2 games under 500. Let me pull that up real quick.
Coming off a series win. They're 2 games under 500 coming off a series win at Tampa.
In Tampa,
Bay.
Yes.
5 games back of the Twins with 13, 14 games against the Twins still left this season.
Yes. And this, Justin, as in the comments, their schedule after June 10th is the easiest in baseball. They are done with the Yankees. They are done with the Red Sox. They are done with the Dodgers. So all these juggernauts, if you will, they're done with.
Hey,
they're done with them. They get a steady diet of AL Central.
Anybody in the chat know what the White Sox record against Tampa, Boston, and the Yankees have been? What are finished with this season? Does anybody know?
Well,
I feel like
against the Yankees, they were like 3-5. I want to, or 3-4. I want to say against the Yankees. They were like 4-2 against the Red Sox, and 4-2 against the Rays. I would say.
Let's see.
So,
go here.
So
Let's get a full count here. All right.
Yeah.
So 2-1.
Smo gave us 11-8 is the record.
11-8. There you go. 11-8.
Mm-hmm.
So again, three really good franchise teams that they might see in the postseason.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. The team that can't beat good teams, which I know I've heard that on Twitter many times, was 11-8 against three of the best teams in baseball. Correct?
Yes.
That's not too shabby. That actually is nice to say. The White Sox are actually, what you don't like is when they have, they lose a game to the Cubs, or they lose a game to the Royals.
Or they give games away, like the Cleveland game a few weeks ago. When they give games away like that, that's what's frustrating.
And Steve Stone's not wrong.
Yeah.
What Steve Stone said, which is, this team, what you do is you have to go 500 against the great teams, and then you beat the cupcakes. You don't waste the cupcakes. And then
that has been the Yankees' model for years. Beat the hell out of the Baltimore Orioles.
Mm-hmm. And that's a good guy, and Dave makes a great point. Astros do have their number. So you know what? So did the Cardinals. The Cardinals had the Cubs number until, guess what? The Cubs knocked them out of the playoffs in 2015 and got that monkey off their back for like 6 years. That Minnesota game in the ninth was a really bad giveaway. I think the game that I jinxed everybody. That was my fault. So you're right. And so for you, Pete, there are problems, right? And everybody wants to talk about the problems. Everyone wants to bitch about problems on social media. My thing is, I've always said this, and I say this to my students all the time. If you're going to complain about a problem, you better damn well give me a solution. So what is your solution? And first off, where are you at?
I want to break down the problem. Then I'll say the problem, then I'll say the solution.
Here we go. Perfect.
So there's several, so bear with me. The first one everyone gets frustrated with is lineup construction and how they played in 51 or 52 different games, and there's been 51 or 52 different lineups. The same lineup has not been fielded twice this season. It's been a different lineup each night. While, yes, you would like to see more consistency in the lineup, it's kind of hard when you have guys going in and out of the lineup. You've had Moncada on the IL. Eloy's still on the IL. Robert didn't go on the IL, but he was out for like a week where he didn't play. Anderson's on the IL right now. So it's kind of hard to field a consistent lineup when you have guys going in and out of the lineup all the time. It's very hard. So first off, and part of the problem with that is the injuries. It is a part of the problem. You cannot deny that. But failure to plan is planning to fail. Now, you have a consistent track record of Jimenez, Moncada, Anderson, Robert, Grandal, all spending time on the IL. That has been happening every year. You failed to plan for it, Rick Hahn. You still have a gaping hole in right field. Andrew Vaughn, great hitter. He's not a right fielder. Sorry, accept it.
Marla,
he needs to.
What a right fielder.
Marla Hooch. But what a player. But you failed to plan for these things. You have holes on this roster. Even before all of the injuries occurred, you had holes on this roster, which you did not address. Now, you can fault Tony La Russa for some things that he's done. I think he's been slow on some pitching changes at times. I think there's been some questionable strategy moves too, but nothing like you would think that the reason that the White Sox should be like what 50-12 or whatever it may be, if Tony La Russa wasn't there, with the way these people are acting on Twitter. Oh, he's the worst manager ever. I hope he dies. Blah 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 blah. First off, the manager can only use what he has been given to use. And again, you have a lot of players that have gone on the IL, been in and out of the room. So you can only use the players that you have. This team reminds me of 2016, reminds me of 2006, reminds me of 1984, again and again and again. It's the same goddamn scenario. Your varsity, your starting nine is excellent. I think everyone would agree that your starting nine, your varsity is excellent. You've done a great job compiling that, but you've done nothing to support it if something goes wrong.
Right.
You've done nothing to support it. That's the same thing that happened in 2016. It's the same thing that happened in 1984. Same thing that happened in the early 2000s, 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004. It's a broken fucking record. To me, the problems with this organization stem much further than Tony La Russa being a bad manager, according to some people. And all those same people, let me answer a couple questions you had about why don't we fire La Russa and hire Girardi? Fuck no. Girardi had all that talent with the Yankees. What did he do with it? One World Series title. That's it. That's it. Yes, you can say that in 2017 the Yankees probably got robbed because of the Astros and everything else. But you know what? There was 8 years in between there where they did nothing. Didn't even make it back to the World Series. Sorry, that's on the manager. What's he done with the Phillies? Look at all that talent they added this past year. Look at it. What has he done with the Phillies? Nothing. Ask some of his former players, and you and I have talked about this offline. Ask some of his former players how they really feel about him. Let me tell you something. It's not good. And I'll tell all these people who are like having a Jones to get Girardi to be the manager, he's Tony La Russa light. He doesn't have the resume to back it up that Tony La Russa does. He's right. Tony La Russa light. So you're just going to get more of the same, but you're too consumed with hatred, Star Wars reference there, to understand that this is the case. Second, for all those people who were pining for Rick Renteria to come back, let me remind you of something very simple. When the White Sox clinched a playoff spot in 2020, yes, they were the number 1 seed. A week later, they were the number 7 seed. And it is a fortunate thing that they had changed the playoff structure in 2020 because otherwise they would not have been in the playoffs. And then they wouldn't be able to advertise how they've made the playoffs 2 years in a row. So understand what you're pining for. Now, other people want Ozzie Guillen back. No thanks. You know why Ozzie Guillen doesn't have a job managing? Because his family comes with him, and they can't help themselves. They destroy whatever they get involved with. So what is the proposal here? I think Tony La Russa is done after this year. I really do. Now, first off, Tony La Russa is not being fired, people. Understand that. Tony La Russa has the job as long as Tony La Russa wants. If you don't like it, that's just too damn bad. But I have a feeling he's going to get tired of all the crap that comes with it, and he's going to hang it up after this season. So who do I want as a manager? I've said it before. I'll say it again. I want someone that has no ties to this organization. I don't want A.J. Pierzynski. Why? Because he has ties to this organization. I don't want Renteria. I don't want Guillen. I want someone...
Joe Girardi.
Yeah. I want someone...
I couldn't help it.
I want someone who has no ties to this organization, has never stepped foot in that home locker room, either as a player, as a coach, as a manager, as a GM. I don't care. I want someone completely detached. Well, first off, I think they need to clean house upstairs. I think they need to nuke the entire organization, to be honest with you, because, as the saying goes, what is insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Because this is insanity. Yump, I know you're a Joe Espada fan, but no, I would say Eduardo Perez. That's my personal pick. I think he is the kind of guy that they need. Espada and Perez bring something to the table that management has dictated. If you remember, they were looking for, we need a manager who speaks Spanish who can relate to our Latin players. Guess what? You have a fucking translator. Get the best manager out there. If the best manager happens to speak Spanish, that's a plus. But that should not be one of your deciding factors on who to hire as a manager. And yes, Vogt, you're correct. It feels very much like Ted Phillips. The one redeeming factor we have is Kenny Williams' contract runs out after 23, and he has said that he signed his last contract already. So I'm hoping he's a man of his word with that. But Rick Hahn, Kenny Williams, they need to go. And for all those people who are sitting there complaining, well, it's Jerry's fault because Jerry won't let Rick do what he wants. Well, let me tell you something. If Jerry doesn't let Rick do what he wants and Rick still has a job there, that means he doesn't care. And that's a bigger offense than being a screw up and not doing this right. So for all those people who are saying, oh, defending Rick because, oh, he doesn't get to do what he wants because Jerry holds him back. Well, you know what? Let me tell you something. First off, Rick and Kenny were the ones who came up with the $250 million offer to Manny Machado. How do we know that? Because Kenny had no problem going to the press after Machado signed with San Diego, saying how they came up with this contract, and they went to Jerry with it, and he signed off on it. So your argument's invalidated right there about Jerry holding them back. They misread the market.
Mm-hmm.
Deal with it. Second, if Rick is being held back and he keeps the job, what does that say about him? He's in it for the money. That's it. And you should be more offended by that than if he was a screw up. Now, second, you asked a question earlier before we went live about what do I think is the biggest problem with this team? Offense, defense, pitching, bullpen. Right now, it's the offense and especially the defense because you have guys playing out of position. Gavin Sheets, Andrew Vaughn. Sound familiar? You have these guys playing out of position. Of course, they're not going to be good. Why? Because they're playing out of position. Why? Because, again, you did not build a complete roster. You know?
This is incredible.
And to Zvo's point, yes, the money was spent. It was spent wrong. And that's been a White Sox problem for years, too. They've spent money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this whole thing about Jerry's cheap and everything else, that's not true. They've spent money. They've just spent it at the wrong places. Adam Dunn, remember that? Jeff Keppinger, remember that? I could keep going on and on.
You had two. Remember that old Sesame Street thing? It was like a quart of milk, a stick of butter, and a loaf of bread. And the kid goes to like the store, and mom gives him like a certain amount of money, and he keeps repeating the order back: loaf of bread, stick of butter, and he gets. What Rick Hahn basically did was he went to the store instead of getting a loaf of bread, a stick of butter, and a quart of milk. He went and got a box of wheat thins,
and cheese spread,
and then some of those Snap Pops that you throw like on the ground. That's what he didn't order right. But here's something that really stands out to me, Pete, and I'm curious about your opinion on this because obviously we know Tony La Russa takes a ton of flack.
Yes,
according to MajorLeagueBaseball.com. The expected win-loss record for the White Sox, based on their 190 runs scored and their 246 runs allowed, their negative 56 run differential, which is insane to me.
Yes.
Their expected win-loss record is 20 wins and 32 losses. Now, that means that they are 5 wins better and 5 losses better, obviously, than what a normal average coached team, I guess you could say, or average team. Right. Would win. So Tony La Russa, in spite of all this, is actually 5 better than the average coach is expected. The average team is expected to win, and there's no credit there because people are more pissed off that. And we could talk about that Lurie Garcia thing too, where people were bitching about.
I also want to talk about the Andrew Vaughn batting 7th thing.
Yeah. I mean, there's that one, and then we'll talk about because there was a couple of quote unquote White Sox experts that would prefer Lurie out of the lineup no matter what. Or at the bottom of the lineup, but no matter what, even though if he goes 0 for 57, they're fine with Moncada staying in the 3 spot.
Yes.
Giant goose egg. Weird to me, right? These guys that are like, oh, La Russa is so old-fashioned, but I'm going to keep throwing Moncada in that same spot over and over again when he is now currently he's more than almost 100 bats in at this point, is he not?
Yes.
He's not. It's not happening right now. It's time to drop him. No, we're going to – who's old-fashioned now there, dude? So we're really at that place. So that for me is my question to you is, the expected win-loss record is they're actually better than they should be. Again, and you've talked about that on, forthcoming easy second half. I mean, the fact that they're at 500 in spite of scoring only 190 runs to their opponent's 246 is insane to me. And so, I mean, for you with the defense, with the offensive struggle, with, It almost, there was a point where it felt like it didn't matter if they threw, people were begging for is it Graveman or whatever, and didn't get him, and they got pissed. And the next night,
Yes.
he put him out there, and he gives up 3 runs and blows a lead. And then it's, why did you put him out there? So, there really is this weird thing. But for you, you've said the offense. I mean, in spite of the struggle, the White Sox are they're still treading water. They are a heater away from being 7-10 games over 500 at this point. They go on an 8-gamer and they're 6 games up. Lose 2, win 4 more. And all of a sudden, next thing you know, everyone's, it's July and everyone's holding hands and singing Kumbaya again. So where do you see it going from this? And let's talk about the lineup formation too. And that obviously is included in this. You got stat heads, criticizing La Russa, but when you look at the numbers left, against what's his name, the kid from Toronto, the kid that literally gets lefties. He gets lefties 330 against them. So he peppered in a bunch of lefties, and everyone bitches about the lineups. You're a stat head. Wouldn't you want dudes that are successful against this guy, more of them in the lineup than less? Now they're going, well, they're not, White Sox lefties aren't that great. Lefties, man, lefties. Okay, so that's why Lurie Garcia was in. I think he got 2 hits, didn't he? I mean,
yeah.
Funny, they were bitched about him, and then he went out and got 2 hits, but whatever. And yes, the concern about Vaughn, and we now know Vaughn needs to be in the 2-hole. I mean, this one's or in the 3-hole. God, get Moncada out there.
I'm going to actually lay out a possible scenario, and I told you this the day that Vaughn was batting 7th. I don't know if this is the fact, but to me, this makes sense because this is stuff he has done before. Look who was batting in front of Vaughn. It was Yasmani Grandal. Now, why would he put Vaughn behind Yasmani Grandal? Because Grandal is struggling, and maybe he might get a fastball or 2 with Vaughn batting behind him to try and shake him out of his slump. Maybe.
The people that complained about that are the same ones that can't understand why they keep having babies. You have to put protection. Protection matters. Protection matters. So putting Vaughn behind Grandal is, and again, we've heard this from Tony La Russa before too. And I think somebody else said it. I can't remember. Maybe Joe Madden was, when I have a guy that's struggling that we know he's better than they are, I'm going to put them in the leadoff spot. I'm going to jumpstart him. And they did. He did it a lot. Right. And it works sometimes. So, I think Brian says it great here. And the thing too, the lineup construction doesn't matter if nobody's hitting. Right. I mean, if you have 3 guys in a 9-dude lineup that are actually getting it done, you could, I don't care, you throw Superman up there. Superman can't drive himself in. Hit the home run. That's it. Home run or not. Because nobody can. And with less than 2 outs, the White Sox were struggling. I mean, Moncada's been really bad in major situations with less than 2 outs, grounding into double plays, striking out, chasing bad pitches, not being patient enough. I've seen him alone myself as a Cub fan watching White Sox games, seen at least 3 situations where he had an opportunity to give the White Sox a late lead, and he couldn't even put a ball in play. Couldn't even get a fly ball.
There's been a couple where he looked at him right down the pipe.
Yep, he's not right. And so it's okay to drop a dude in the lineup for a little bit. It's not permanent. But, Sox fans, sometimes they don't get it. They don't like it. And, I think, Brian makes a good point, too. He's seeing fastballs not hitting. That's a different problem. That's a totally different problem. That's a concern. That's an actual concern. If he's getting beat by fastballs now, that's a question for the hands. And hands are something that do degrade over time. So
I don't know if it's necessarily the hands. I question his legs because I was watching, I don't know if it was Friday or Saturday, and I saw him running the first, and he sort of had like that my legs are sore running waddle that I live with on a day-to-day basis. And granted, he's a finely tuned athlete and I'm not, but you can just see him running down the baseline. He's not right. Those legs aren't right. The legs are the foundation of everything.
It's not one of those drop the soaps in prison shuttles, is it? Like walk. Those are different, I think.
No, that's different. But you could just see his legs aren't right. They're not. And I think that's why Reese McGuire has been catching more. McGuire, I think, still has more games caught than Grandal does. And I think that's a large reason why, because I don't think Grandal's legs are 100%. Mm-hmm. And what's the worst thing you can do if you have legs that are bothering you? Squat?
And he hasn't been good defensively. I mean, he's got a couple throwing errors already, I believe, too. And he's also there at first base, I think, as well. He's just, he's not right. And these guys, it sucks. This is what, as a coach, too, and you have guys that what they're capable of, and their ability level. And it's just not clicking. And just like with a full lineup that is struggling, like the White Sox lineup really has been for a majority of the season, which, again, this was a lineup that I was expecting like double digits on the routine.
Yes.
And it hasn't been there. You've got to take into consideration the fact that, when a guy's not right, a coach's job is to keep pushing buttons until one of them finally works. And, sometimes you hit sometimes you hit the right button on the second try. I tried it and you're lucky. But sometimes you got to hit every single button in the elevator before you find the right room. And, those dickheads that jump on the elevator, and you're on like the 32nd floor and they've got all of them all the way up to 31 also click. You sometimes got to wait. And finally, that 32nd floor is what really clicks. And so, they're 500 and they've played horrible baseball. That's something that's so interesting to me, is playing basically probably as bad as this team can even be with the ability level in that locker room, in that clubhouse or whatever. But they're only 25 and 27. Like, this is our floor.
And their Pythagorean win-loss should be 20, right?
Yeah, this is the floor.
Mm-hmm.
This is the floor. So take that for what it's worth.
Right.
If this is the floor, imagine what the ceiling can be if it all clicks, especially with that easier second half schedule when they start really getting right.
And let me say this too. There are legitimate things you can complain about Tony La Russa about. I'm not saying he's the perfect manager. He is not. There are things you can complain about with every single manager in the game. But there is no way you can convince me that if the White Sox had a different manager last year, with a couple of exceptions, that they win the division with the amount of injuries they had. I say he helped them win the division with all of the injuries that they had. I put other managers in there, they ain't even sniffing it.
Mm-hmm. Because
they would freak out and not know what to do. I think some of that is rubbing off this year as well. The Pythagorean record provides some credence to that. Mm-hmm. Do I think they should have a couple more wins? Yes. I could think of a Minnesota game. I could think of a Cleveland game that they pissed away. They don't piss those games away. They're 27-25. And again, to your point earlier about the experts with Moncada, I just love the fact that two of the experts, and for those listening on the podcast, I'm using air quotes when I say experts, work for the same organization. One is telling us that Moncada needs to stay in the 3-hole. The other is screaming that Moncada needs to be at the bottom of the lineup. And I just find it funny. You guys work for the same organization. Go get your message together. Go get yourself in unison. And also, you and I have talked about this. And as much as I know you hate this comp, if you will, I want a lineup constructed like the St. Louis Cardinals of the 80s, where you had the speed merchants at the top. And you had Vince Coleman and Willie McGee going 1 and 2. Then you had the boppers coming up and Tommy Herr and Jack Clark. Then you went through the rest of the lineup and you got to number 9. And then you had Ozzie Smith batting 9th. The key to that was there were times you had Ozzie Smith, Vince Coleman, and Willie McGee on the bases at the same time. If you put anything in a gap, you got 3 runs right there. You're clearing the bases. That's why I want to see speed at the top and bottom of the lineup. And one of the things La Russa's gotten heat for in the past, it doesn't apply anymore, is having the pitcher bat 8th so he can have the speed guy bat 9th. People will go, well, the number 9 spot should be your worst hitter. I would argue the number 8 spot should be the worst hitter. Because if you stack up 9, 1, and 2, put all your speed merchants there, You can do a lot of damage very easily if things are clicking. That's just my opinion. I don't think 9 should be the worst hitter. I think 8 should. How do you feel about that?
I personally agree with you. I think that like this is why pitchers hitting the eight. Again, like you said, this is something La Russa has been doing for a long while. This is what killed us as a Cub fan. I'm Sox fans. I can say this. I'm familiar with this 8-9 philosophy in the fact that it basically destroyed my 20s and 30s of the Cubs. I had to deal with the Cubs getting their head bashed in enough with that being successful. You put the 8 hole is your worst hitter. I do this. Same thing for me when I write a lineup. My 8 hole. No offense if you're a player that plays for me. If you're listening to this somehow and you were the 8 hitter, I apologize for this. But if you were my 8 hitter, yeah, you were probably my weakest hitter. You're someone that I didn't want to protect, and that I didn't want protecting anybody else. And so that 8 hole's that it. That 9 hole is that second leadoff. That is everything. That allows you, once you turn that and flip that lineup over, that allows you then to have your leadoff guy should be a fairly good bat. And then your 2 guy, like an Andrew Vaughn, which is an extra base hit kind of guy, you've got something there for them to drive in. You've got a table set. And so that 9 hole is for a second. In other words, that 9 hole should be the dude that spells your leadoff guy when that guy needs a day off, and is your leadoff 1A. 7, 8 hole. No, you don't want him in the 6, 4, 5. You want him in that 9. And so, it's again though, lineups, are what they are, but nothing fixes giant gaps in performance, no matter what. Because if you have only 3 out of the 9 performing, you're never going to be able to sustain an inning. All you're doing is praying for the long ball, and it's easier said than done. So, you know what? When the White Sox lineup starts clicking, I think you're going to see it doesn't matter. It'll also be the same. It won't matter what Tony La Russa throws on a lineup card, because that lineup will be peaking and that lineup will also be dominant. So it flows both ways. The water flows both ways in this creek. Right now, it doesn't matter what you throw out there, it's going to struggle. Once they click, it doesn't matter what you throw out there, they're going to blow it up. So be patient. I guess that's all I can say.
And again, part of the struggle with the lineup is you don't have all your pieces for the varsity is not complete. It's not. Eloy's not there. TA's not there right now. So you're missing 2 cogs in your varsity lineup.
They just took 2 of 3 from Tampa Bay at Tampa without Tim Anderson and Eloy.
Yes, I know. Think about that.
And a non-functioning Moncada.
And a non-functioning Grandal, too.
Yes. So,
and again,
that's a gray real quick.
So as much as people don't want to hear this, Tony deserves some credit for having this team where it is. I know if I go out on Twitter and I post that, there's going to be a lot of very upset people. But you know what? I may post it just to piss them off even more. And then when they go provide the proof, all you got to do is show them the Pythagorean record. He's 5 games better than what they should be at. So he must know what he's doing. I'm sure that all the stat heads will flip out over that one. Then they'll start like, well, but, because, they know more than the guy who's won the second most games in baseball history. And, and can't even figure out where they should bat Moncada.
Side note, opening day of the Arizona, what is that? What's the ACL? Is that like the rookie league? Cubs prospect Christian Hernandez, first professional at bat today.
Home run?
Yep.
Good.
And the launch angle looks to me like it was a bomb, because the launch angle off the bat, it looks like he's hitting a pop-up straight up like to the catcher. But that ball left the yard, which means he must have had either some top spin or that ball got a long way.
Yeah. And I just want to add one more thing about the White Sox. Talking to and reading some people who I think really do have a good understanding of the franchise and what they're doing. Josh Nelson being one of them. It looks like Yolbert Sanchez may be up sooner rather than later. Which, is he the answer at second base? I don't know. Because again, prospects are suspects. But you know what you got with Harrison. You're playing Lurie Garcia way too much. Lurie's perfect role is as the utility, Swiss Army knife type player who you can bounce around from one position to another or insert him as a pinch runner for Vaughn or Gavin Sheets and have him go out and play their outfield spot. So you might see him sooner rather than later. And let's see what the kid can do. Doesn't hurt. And then Sosa, and when Sanchez comes up, it's basically the speculation was Sosa moves into his spot, moves up into Double A in Sanchez's spot.
Mhm.
So it looks like they might have some reinforcements on the way, but again, prospects are suspects. They should not have been in this position to begin with because failure to plan is planning to fail.
Mhm.
And they did not address the two giant holes that they had on this team. They caught lightning in a bottle last year with Billy Hamilton and God, I can't think of the other guy's name right now. The other outfielder. Darn it. Brian Goodwin.
Goodwin. Oh yeah, Goodwin.
Yes. Yeah. And Brian, to your point about Mendick, yes. Keep the hot hand out there till it's no longer hot. So, but it should be after June 10th. I mean, they have this week coming up. They got 3 with the Dodgers, which is a tall task to ask anyone of. Even though they might be catching the Dodgers at a good time. Dodgers are struggling a little bit. They got swept by the Pirates for crying out loud last week. So hopefully they can take 2 out of 3. Then you get a Texas Rangers team that can mash but can also go into deep funks too. So hopefully you catch them in a deep funk and not mashing.
Sorry, I'm taking screenshots of our matching shirts because it's awesome.
Oh, that's right. Proudly displayed Saturday night too.
Yes, which
Yes.
as we segue, this is a perfect actual segue for this. We are coming off of last weekend. We're obviously living in a Maverick society, a post Rooster world, really, where now we know Rooster exists. But last Saturday night, our pals, our buddies, our sister podcast, brother podcast, I think probably call it just about. I mean, it still works, but I mean, we call it either one. Whatever you guys, whatever you guys want.
Our companion podcast.
Obviously, we'll non-gender it. If you want to be the sister of Shawshank, that's also your prerogative. We don't judge you. But anyway, they put together a really, really rad screening, group screening for their listeners on the Swamp Yumper and Swo at the show podcast. And so they put together a great event. I'll have you tell the whole story of the event, but again, I'm going to say this, but I'm going to preface this. I couldn't make it, unfortunately, this weekend. I'm going to get a little downer here, but our one of our pups, she kind of hit the tail end of her time, so we had to send her off to the Rainbow Bridge. So the Golden Rainbow, that's different. The Rainbow Bridge, and so I wasn't able to be there. We wanted to obviously spend as much time with her, and we said goodbye to her on Sunday morning around 10 a.m. So she's gone, and so that's why I couldn't attend. And so it really sucked doubly because you guys all got to do this, but it was a group where you guys all got together and got to watch a movie I've seen 3 times, by the way. I've already seen Top Gun 3 times. So the new Top Gun Maverick as a group, and they had some awesome stuff, some great swag. So Pete, tell us what happened, man. Give us the story.
So, obviously we assembled at the Streets of Woodfield movie theater right outside of Woodfield Mall in Schaumburg. The turnout was great. I know there were some last minute cancellations, a couple of them due to, unfortunately, some people getting struck by another round of COVID. So obviously they were very last minute, we tested positive, we can't go, that kind of thing. But the guys did a great job. They handed out these wonderful glasses, pint glasses with the Yumper and Swo logo on there that are absolutely fantastic. Unfortunately, I don't have mine right here. It's upstairs in the kitchen. I am in my basement. I'm relish to the basement. But it was basically a private theater rental with spaced for people to spread out, and it was just like going to the movies. I mean, you got the uh, full previews going. The next Mission Impossible movie looks incredible. You got the Nicole Kidman speech about the movie theater and the magic of movies and everything else, because I know that's one of your personal favorites. And you got the movie, and the movie was fantastic. I liked it a lot better, a lot more than I thought I would, because I was struggling with, this is like 36 years later. What the hell can they do in how the hell can they cover 36 years? Or it should be more like 34 because it's supposed to come out in 2020. But all I'll say about the movie is I don't want to give away any spoilers. I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was worth seeing. I think it's worth seeing on the biggest, loudest screen possible. And Jennifer Connelly still got her fastball. That's all I'll say.
Spoiler alert. Tom Cruise finds out at the end he's actually just a ghost haunting Rooster. So sorry about that.
Well, Tom Cruise finds out that he's actually Bruce Willis's character in The Sixth Sense.
Right. It's like a multiverse. And all of a sudden he uploads consciousness and he knows Kung Fu. There was, though, I will say this. And I agree with Pete, man. This is a fantastic freaking film. Like I said, I've seen it 3 times. See it in the biggest, loudest format you possibly can. I can't stress that enough. You want to feel those G's. Hey, what? But it's a fantastic film. It's fun. It's not preachy. It's not didactic. It's just balls and brawn and cool and music and Brewhand Luke in the chat, and it's all these things that you want from a summer blockbuster. It's a perfect sequel. It's just a fantastic homage to, again, what Tony Scott did. Tony Scott passed away a couple years ago, took his own life, sadly, and he's a guy, one of my favorite directors of with True Romance is another one of his films. Great job. And so they did a really great job of like honoring him too with it. It's a traditional tent pole, new wave summer blockbuster, like Swo says in the chat right now. It's a throwback,
and it's great to have that back. It's like some semblance of normal coming back into the world, and to have the big loud summer blockbuster out there, and
one that's not just a comic book movie. Like right. We've had the blockbuster comic book movies. But I mean, comic book fatigue is real in a sense. I don't hate them. I love them. They're great. It's fun. The stories are great. We're so immersed in it, but it's nice to have something else. Like it's nice to have another like giant, big budget action movie. This one's a sequel, but it's pretty original considering everything and the time period that's lapsed in between. So, like you said, Jennifer Connelly is just insanely beautiful. She's aged very well. Kelly McGillis, on the other hand, is not. She looks like my grandma at this point, but it's what you want to see, and the performances are great. Miles Teller. I'm not always a big fan of Miles Teller because he hangs out with Aaron Rodgers, and Rodgers is a piece of shit. Miles Teller, is he's fine. He channels Anthony Edwards or Anthony. Is it Anthony Edwards? Anthony Edwards
looks sort of like Anthony Edwards from that era, because Anthony Edwards later lost his hair from his ER days.
Right. We're going to see Goose age as he would have, so it wasn't really that graceful, but that's a great part of it. And again, I'm a huge fan of, like the supporting cast. Not just Jennifer Connelly. The brief appearance. You got other people.
Ed Harris with the brief appearance.
Harris, yeah, John Hamm. I'm a huge fan of Glenn Powell. Glenn Powell, the guy that plays Hangman, who's awesome. He's actually hilarious, by the way. He is like my favorite character from the movie Everybody Wants Some. And he's one of the ball players on the team, the Richard Linklater film. And so Glenn Powell's hilarious to me. So I really hope Glenn Powell like blows up after this. I hope he feels like, again, that's not do comps, but he feels like he has that same kind of arrogant swagger that like Bradley Cooper had when he was coming out of playing dickhead roles and moving into more leading man status. Because remember, he played like the asshole in like so many movies.
What? He was the asshole in Wedding Crashers.
Yes, he was. He always played the dick. And so Powell is funny as shit. He's not a dick and Everybody Wants Some. He's hilarious. He's the actual like Merlin tour guide into this whole wacky big college baseball team that they all play on. But he is in this one. He's arrogant. He's kind of a douche. And I just want to see him in some more. I want to see him in some more action films. I think the dude again has some comedy chops. You know, I like it when dudes are like, he's funny. His delivery is great, and so he's awesome. Monica Barbaro as Phoenix. You said John Hamm was great. We don't, not to get your hopes up, but we're not going to see. We're not going to see boom, 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 boom. Kelly McGillis. Don't worry about that. But there are other cameos that pop up.
And I have to say this. Val Kilmer is referenced in there. I'll put it that way. And it is fantastic and heartbreaking at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so
that's all I'll say about it. And for those who have seen it, I'm sure you understand exactly what I'm referring to.
Mm-hmm. And it's rough. And it's one of the more emotional moments because they did a great job with the trailer. I'm going to say this. The trailer is so much. The trailer makes it seem totally like it's going to play out like the first one.
Yep.
Trust me, I'm going to tell you this right now. Like there was one thing that they did. I don't want to, because it kind of would spoil it, but there was one little clip that they did on the trailer that made me think one thing was going to happen, and they teased the shit out of it in the movie. And you're like, oh, here it comes. And it doesn't happen. And a different kick to the gut happens instead after what we thought was the kick to the gut. And if you have seen it, know like G-Lock is all I'll say, I guess. Things happened that you were expecting, and it didn't happen. And then you're like, boom, and you get kicked by another thing that happens completely separate. And it's like, whoa. So that really makes for some really great stuff. Also, and those of you that have seen it but haven't, or you haven't, there's a character named Bob on Bob's great because he's just a nerd. And he's a bad humor. I mean, he's just the guy that's just, I've been here this whole time. What? You guys fucking didn't see me? And the guy, you must be like a stealth, as a joke, a stealth bomber or whatever pilot. And he doesn't get the joke, but the kid that plays Bob, which is great because you could spell it forward and backwards, is Louis Pullman. And his father. His father, one day,
Bill, right?
saved the world from aliens and gave a speech.
Sort of like the Jason Hayward speech.
Yeah, very much. Him and Jason Hayward really worked on that speech together. Independence Day. And then they played it again in Independence Day 2. Yes, it's Bill Pullman. So Bill Pullman's kid. If those of you that have seen the Sandra Bullock romantic comedy that it took place in Chicago, right? Didn't it? Where he gets
while we were sleeping or whatever it was. Yeah.
He's also obviously Lone Star in baseball. So, I mean, it's great. His son, he's also Pullman's kid, Louis Pullman. He's fantastic in Bad Times at the El Royale. He plays the hotel clerk, the concierge. So he's awesome in that too. Actually, I thought his character was really good. That's a fantastic underrated film in my opinion. I think.
Bill Pullman has plays one of his greatest roles is in one of his first roles as the idiot in Ruthless People.
Oh yeah.
This guy may be the dumbest person on the planet Earth.
Exactly. So Top Gun's worthy, guys. Go give it a shot. Go give it a look. See again, as loud a venue as you can possibly find. My computer's going woo woo right now. All right. As possibly as you could find. Loud. It's a fun Tom Cruise. I mean, there's at least. I mean, here's 2 things too. Of 3 things actually. I need you guys can you can DM me or whatever you want. I need some help with the math here. Okay, movie came out in 1986. In 1986, Goose's kid on the piano has to be at least 4 years old, right?
Yes.
Cowboy hat. So that means in 1986, that means he was born in 1982. That makes him 40 years old in 2022. But
subtract 2 years because the movie was supposed to come out in 2020.
Okay. But I'm not sure if it doesn't say that it's that. So we're supposed to assume it's set in 2022. But that still would have made him 38. And I did get, obviously we know there's a 4-year delay in him joining the Navy. We won't get into that as much as a spoiler, but so there's 4 years you can come off that. So at minimum, his character is supposed to be like 34 years old. Can it even work that way though? Like that's 6 years. I feel like they messed up with the aging. I guess that's my. I feel like there's an age issue. I mean, I know that Miles Teller's only 36, but I feel like his character should technically be theoretically 40 years old. So I don't know.
I would say 38, just because taking into account that the movie was supposed to come out in 2020 and the pandemic saw that it didn't come out till now.
Okay. So even if we go, we'll take that 2 years in
Right.
consideration. But is Miles Teller
Yes.
really 38? Because that means that he got into the Navy at what age? So
Well, he could have gotten in at like 21, because remember
24.
there's that
22.
4-year lag.
Yeah, 22. He had to be 22 or older, which means probably 22 because he was good at what he does. But there's that. And then secondly, he only has one civilian shirt. Miles Teller, Rooster, at the beginning, when we were introduced to Rooster, he's wearing a specific shirt. He's wearing a Hawaiian shirt with a Dago tee, or what do we call those now? I don't know what the heck we call them now. I don't know. What are those called now? What do we call them? Can't call them wife beaters.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm Italian. I call them a Dago tee, but what are those
that's
called?
what I call it too.
Yeah. So he's wearing that.
Shirts. I don't know.
Right? I don't know. Whatever the PC is term for that. Sorry, guys. I admit it. I don't know what it is. I need to grow. But he's wearing that, the white, like Hawaiian Acapulco shirt. And then he's in his military, because he's in his military garb the rest of the way. And then at the end, when we see the montage at the end of like the whole film, not saying that it's like it's a tank top. There we go, tank top. The montage at the end of the film, whether it's memories or whatever, we see that again, there's a memory or whatever it is. And he's again wearing the same shirt. So he only has one shirt. I'm not as a spoiler alert. Pay attention to the end, the wrap up and the memory thingy or whatever. And look what he's wearing at both. He only has one shirt. So Rooster actually is broke as hell and has one shirt and one pair of shorts and doesn't change his underpants. I'm pretty sure that's his MO. Rooster's kind of dirty. I created a whole backstory for him. He doesn't have a girlfriend. He's no relationship. I mean, he's in his late 30s. I mean, he's not even divorced at this point. So like he's not saying that's a bad thing, but he's at this point he's probably got sweaty balls, and he smells like dudes. Because I know that being single at my age, especially before me and Carrie moved in, I was around that point, and yeah, I mean, I'm sure my condo probably smelled like farts. I'm pretty sure. So I feel like Rooster smells like farts, even in the cockpit. So like, that's probably why he was in the one seater most of the time. As in what do they call it? What was this? He was spear number 1 or whatever.
He was spear 2.
Dagger 1 or Dagger 2. Yeah.
Dagger 1 and Dagger 2. Yes.
He's not in a dually airplane. They put him in his own airplane, so I think he smells like farts. So yeah, Rooster fits in another universe, Jumper. That's probably true. I did smell like farts. I break that. But speaking of farts, and speaking of other things as well, and those of you that are on Netflix fans, this past week also saw the release of the Stranger Things season number 4, all but the final 2 episodes. So it was roughly about 10 and a half to 11 hours of fantastic television. And I know, Pete, you haven't gotten a chance to watch it, so I'll really be careful with the spoilers. But I'd like to recommend it if you're a Stranger Things fan. If you're not a Stranger Things fan, what's wrong with you, first off? But secondly, give it a shot. It's awesome, especially you can get mid-season. They're all good seasons. But I'm going to say season 4 is the best season of Stranger Things. It's the most mature. It's the most. It's a total homage to Wes Craven, among others, especially in the campy 80s, tropes and whatnot as well. But it is fantastic season of television. It really does go in my top 10 seasons of television of all time. It is so good. If you're a Stranger Things fan and you haven't watched it yet, if you're in the midst of watching it and you're Stranger Things fans, buckle up, because the last 4 episodes are just kick ass. And then the final 7, episode 7 and episode 8, I believe it is, or no, episode 8, episode 9, those don't come out until early July. And those are, or maybe it's 7, 8, 9. No, it's 8 and 9. And like episode 8 is like an hour and 45 minutes. And then episode 9 is actually 9. The last episode, the finale for the season, is like 2 hours and like 40 minutes long.
Damn.
So incredible. They made a bunch of movies basically with this one long movie, but it is so good. Great new characters. The old characters are awesome. It'll break your heart. Speaking of, happy birthday, Robert Englund. And not to be a spoiler, but you can't do a Wes Craven homage series of television if you don't have Bobby Englund out there. So look for him in the show. Look for his fingerprint everywhere, or should I say his claw print. Sorry.
And can I add one thing?
Uh,
For those of you who do not know, in Oak Brook Mall, and I noticed this yesterday because I took my niece to get a new iPhone, courtesy with the help of Mr. Svoboda. There is a Stranger Things store in Oak Brook Mall,
Mhm.
and it is very close to the Apple Store too. So just
Ooh.
something if you want to go, because you see a bunch of people walking around there with Stranger Things T-shirts and everything else. You're like, oh, there's the store, and there was a line outside of it, like you were going into the Coach store to buy a purse or something.
It's pretty neat. Yeah, it's those pop-ups or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They're great. It's kind of like here in I think September, an It themed escape room is opening up here. That's pretty cool. But we have one of those Stranger Things stores here too, I believe. But I think that's like the big release thing. It's brilliant branding too. It's brilliant. So with that too, also another television show, and I don't know if you've been watching. I can't remember if you've told me you've been watching the show or not, but it has launched since we have last broadcast. Being a Star Wars nerd that I am, dork. Sorry, not nerd. Nerds are Star Trek. I'm a dork. I'm Star Wars. But is the new Obi-Wan Kenobi series, Obi-Wan, which has come out. Now, have you been watching any of that?
I have not, because the first two episodes were released when I was out of town.
Oh, gotcha.
So I have not had a chance to. That's like going to probably be like Saturday morning or something like that before I go to the Sox game or something like that.
Worth it. So it's we're at, I think Wednesday is episode 4, and there's only 7 episodes. So you're getting close to like having at least a couple hours of content. If you haven't watched it, those of you that have watched it, you guys probably agree. It starts a little bit slow, and I know there's been some criticism of the acting and et cetera, et cetera. And I know the third sister garnered a lot of hate and stuff. And I think it's okay to criticize her performance. I don't think it's really that enthralling to me. Whatever. I initially, but characters, the one thing is characters do grow on you as they kind of feel out of role too. And so some of it feels forced early, but she may or may not, kind of like fall into that role a little bit better. But Obi-Wan itself as a series, it continues, it's I think, is it 10 years, I believe, after the fall of the Republic. So it's been like 10 years. Obi-Wan's been hiding in a cave, watching, Cinemax or late night Cinemax and,
Skinamax, call it right, Skinamax.
Hacking somebody else's signal using a scrambler because he wants to steal everybody's cable because he's not going to pay the man. No, I don't know.
Because they would be able to trace him then and find him.
Right, that's right. Jesus. I know a picture of Obi-Wan Kenobi in a cave on Tatooine watching porn. So I'm ruined.
Sounds like the Unabomber.
Bantha porn. Jeez, oh God. Back on it. But it's a good show. It's fun. There's a lot more of Leia, ironically enough, or coincidentally enough, in this show. So it's pretty fun. It's worth a watch. It's for Star Wars. Again, it continues the story. I'm really excited. Star Wars has dropped a lot of cool announcements lately too. So there's a lot of stuff coming down the line. But as a show, I think that this holds. It's holding well. It's worth watching. And I do recommend it. So if you do get a chance, you're going to get a chance to watch it. I'm curious. I'll ask you next episode, see what you thought. If you get a chance to give it a look, see. It's nostalgic, sure, but it's also it's a good show. I mean, it's a long Star Wars film. And again, people that complain about the dialogue, blah, 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 man, George Lucas sucked at dialogue too. And, there's been a lot more. It's not the first time they've had someone that maybe overacted in their roles in Star Wars. I mean, they're bringing back Hayden Christensen, for God's sake. Speaking of overacting, I hate them.
I hate you. You stole her from me.
Hayden. But now he's Darth Vader. So here's James Earl Jones. And we just see Hayden's body in the suit. So it's cool. I'm cool with that. He can do interpretive dance all he wants. So with that said too, one last thing before we tie a bow on this, something I know you want to talk about a little bit too, is over the Memorial Day weekend, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yes, that's correct.
You headed out to the Hall of Fame's annual Hall of Fame
Classic weekend.
Right. So real quick, why don't you tell us what it was, what you did, and tell us about that second place finish at the golf event.
There you go. So yes, every year Memorial Day weekend, the Hall of Fame holds what they call the Hall of Fame Classic. What it consists of is they have for lack of a better way to put it, an old timers baseball game at Doubleday Field, an old timers home run derby before the baseball game, and that's all on Saturday. They used to do a 5K race and like a kids clinic, but some of the features like the 5K race, they did not bring back this year, because this is the first time they've held it since 2019. So I went out there for the weekend, got a chance to, see the old timers game and everything else. Jose Contreras was there representing the White Sox, and a name from the past was there were two Cubs, well, three actually, I would say, representing the Cubs there. The first two are Hall of Famers. The first one being Ferguson Jenkins was there, Lee Smith being the second Cub, who was also a Hall of Famer. And then the third Cub, if you will, was Steve Swisher. That's right, the father of Nick Swisher, who was also there and who truly lived up to my opinion of him being an absolute raging asshat. But it was a good time. One of the things that we did get, a select group of people did get a chance to sit through, was a new movie called The Royal. It is about the real life struggles of Willie Mays Aikens. If you don't know the story, Willie Mays Aikens played for the Kansas City Royals late 70s, early 80s. He is the only player to have multiple games in a World Series with multiple home runs. There were two games in the 1980 World Series where he hit 2 home runs in each of them. He's the only player to accomplish that. Teammates with George Brett, among others. And his life went down the tubes, and he was busted selling crack cocaine and was sentenced to 28 years in prison, but wound up serving 14 of it. And then they talk about the movie picks up him getting out of prison and how he built his life back, becoming a motivational speaker, going to Congress and talking about excessive, how if it's crack cocaine, the sentencing is less than like powder cocaine, if you will. So it was a very fascinating movie, well worth watching. Did a Q&A with them, with Willie Mays, the real Willie Mays Aikens, and George Brett, which was fascinating to listen to. George Brett was there for a little bit, bailed out. He had a wedding to go to, and I just never got the chance to ask him if he was going to go back to Vegas and shit his pants again. But that, and then Sunday was the golf outing, and what it is, it's a scramble. And so basically you have teams of 4 that also get paired up with a Hall of Famer. The Hall of Famer that the team I was on was paired up with was Tim Raines. And we finished, make sure I don't, in second place, as you can see there. This was the prize for each member of the team. It is an autographed bat by all the Hall of Famers who were present. You can see Wade Boggs there. Who is that one? I can't remember. But you see Tim Raines, Ted Simmons. That's Ted Simmons. Boggs, Lee Smith right there, Alan Trammell, Ozzie Smith. So this was the prize I got for finishing in second place. The third place team finished with a score of 59. The team I was on finished with a score of 58. And the first place team, with Ozzie Smith leading the way, finished with a score of 57. So, not a bad weekend. I'll take my prize and enjoy it immensely. But
for you that are listening at home, he was really comfortable with that bat just now.
Hey, it might have slept with me a couple nights. Not saying, just saying.
Might rub out some of that pine tar. No.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome, man. That's always it's a great opportunity to kind of get out there. And again, first time since we had the broadcast with Josh Warwitz too.
Yes. And I did talk to Josh, told him thanks for being on, and he said he had a great time and everything else. So hopefully there's some other things coming in the future. Nothing definite yet. Perfect. But he's hoping to meet you, by the way.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of funny. I'll be in Rochester in about 2 weeks, and it's so close. I'm like, it's like.
Well, if you do, let me know. I'll reach out to him.
I have a rental car, and there might be. I think there's something I think Carrie and I talked about where we had like a window of like a couple hours. I can't remember if it's how far we're out where we're going to be though. It was like Jazz Fest where we're going to be too, and I'm like, ooh, that's kind of cool. But well, all right. Well, with
And
that,
just one more thing, real quick.
Sure,
The
sure.
Royal debuts on
That's right.
Amazon Prime, all the different Hulu, all the different platforms around July 15th.
Perfect.
Interesting watch. Check it out.
Nice. That and the Nolan Ryan documentary too that comes out. My buddy saw it, so it's really good. I just couldn't go.
When is that
That
being
came out.
released?
It was a one.
I saw it was at the shows for one night only.
The one night
But
only.
when is it getting on streaming? Do you know?
They haven't given a date yet, so
Okay.
it was like one of those fan event thingies or whatever.
Yeah.
That they usually do, like with the movie The Room or something. So
Yeah, because it was also the same night as the Top Gun
correct.
first screening, if you will, on Tuesday night.
Right. Exactly. So cool. Well, we've kind of gone up and down. We talked Cubs, Sox, talked a little bit about Top Gun and our boys Swo and Yumper. Make sure you guys give them a follow over at Yumper and Swo at the show as well.
I'm sure they'll have a lot more to say about the event on their next show.
Yep.
Which I think if I remember correctly, they were saying their next show is about movie hot takes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
Because I gave them one, and
and it sounds like we're going to be appearing on an episode here in the future here soon.
Yes,
guys. So we'll have a real fun collaboration in that sense too.
Yes.
So and give those guys a follow. Make sure obviously you follow us on Tainted Glove at Tainted Glove on the Twitters. And obviously go to our website where you can catch both our content and Yumper and Swo at the show at thetaintedglove.com. Give us a follow, obviously hammer the like page here, hammer the follow, hammer the whatever else you got to hammer. Just don't hammer your neighbor like in the movie Old Boy. So other than that, we'll see you guys for tuning in this week. And Pete, why don't you take us on out?
Thanks a lot. Great being here. Thank you to everybody for listening, for watching. I mean, obviously, without you, we are nothing. So we appreciate you taking the time to consume what we have done in any form that you have. But with that, I will turn it over to the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend. Yeah, dog. Yeah, dog. Take it away. And remember, aloha.